Evening, folks. Welcome to the View match day preview for Blackburn versus Leeds United. Elland Road on early kickoff tomorrow, 12:30 kickoff. At Elland Road. A bit to do before. Shouldn't have read the comments on my videos before I started to do this. There's a comment that's thrown me off completely now. So we'll get cracking on with this. On my own tonight, stats isn't feeling the best, so no stats tonight. Just myself as the sun decides to scream through the window at this exact moment that I went live. Quick shout out to new member. Gloves are off. Sweet Science. Thank you for becoming a member on the channel. And I don't have emojis for new members because it's not really a thing. There's nothing really extra you get for being a member. It's just me saying thanks very much for being a member. So I apologize for that. Even to everybody, I hope you're all having a really good day. Get myself back in the game here. We'll crack on with this and we'll get in. It's a big game. It's a big game. Daniel Farke's press conference today. Very relaxed. Daniel Farke talked a lot of positive stuff. Spoke with Stuart Dallas. The week that has seen the financial results for Leeds United released, which shows Leeds in a pretty positive position. The 190 million hanging over their head. People are panicking about that. There's 73 million that's been paid in the current cycle to be deducted from that 190. There's also the remainder of that 130 or whatever it is, 125 is broken over several years in blocks. So not the end of the world. Myself and Luke at Orton No Better had a conversation with Kieran Maguire at lunchtime today over on their channel. You can check it out if you want to. I will be sharing it on this channel probably later on tonight or tomorrow, where he talked about the finances and basically said we're in a really good position. Even if we don't get promoted this season, there won't be a need for a fire sale. We'll still be in a reasonably good position moving into next season. 26, he said, then it gets nervy for Leeds, but should be fine. So Cosby relaxed, even though Andrea Radrizzani was doing his level best to max out the credit card. It's one way to sign up players, I suppose. But a good thing. The other side of this week, we've seen Stuart Dallas announce his retirement from football, which is very sad to see, but I think something we all probably saw coming. But again, as we've said during the week in the news, a massive thank you to Stuart Dallas for everything he's done for Leeds. He is the cover star for tomorrow's program. There's an exclusive interview with him in the program as well, so get your hands on that. We'll go through the usual stuff as normal. We'll talk about the form guide. We'll talk about the last meeting against Blackburn, and we'll also talk about the team news coming into the game and what the others are up to. Leicester kicking off at 8 o'clock tonight, so we will know what we need to do in terms of chasing Leicester. That sun could not have come out at the worst time, could it? It's been raining all day. Anyway, I'll turn off the camera, and that might help it. There we go. A bit better. Right. So, not going to do a huge amount in the chat. But actually, I was going to say we'll do a huge amount of the chat, but we'll talk about this. When does Augustin compensation kicked in? There is some legal case payouts in the current set of financials for the last year. Kerr Maguire reckons that some of the money for Augustin is in that already. Some of it will be kicked on down the road. There's not a full understanding of that. What's interesting about the John Kevin Augustin situation is that CAS have refused to comment outside of saying that the appeal has been withdrawn. Leeds have refused to comment on the situation, and Augustin's agent has been unavailable for comment on the situation. That usually says to me there's been a non-disclosure agreement signed here by the three parties, and a settlement outside of the court has possibly been reached. I'm speculating, but when all parties are refusing to talk, chances are there's an NDA in place. And if there's an NDA in place, chances are that's due to some form of an out-of-court settlement that may have happened. So, Nick, I hope that answers your question in a bit more detail than we probably wanted or needed. Anyway, as I said, Leeds, huge game tomorrow. The Sunderland game, everyone lost their marbles over that. Some of it I get, some of it I understand, but I actually genuinely thought that Leeds' performance was better against Sunderland than it had been against Hull, Coventry and Watford. In terms of we had far more of the ball, we dominated possession, we moved the ball quickly, we moved up and down the field fast, players were tracking back. Chris Somerville defensive work was excellent. I was very critical of him against Coventry for tracking back. He did a fantastic job against Sunderland. I didn't feel it was all doom and gloom. For me, it's important to get the performance right. Results will then come. And I'm hoping we see a similar performance in terms of the speed of the ball that we used, the tempo that we had, and hopefully get a bit more creative around the edge of the box and try and break down Blackburn. It's not going to be as straightforward as I think everybody thinks it will be, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail now in a sec. On a form guide situations with 4 games to go, the pressure's kicking in. Everyone seems to be feeling it. Ipswich, Leicester and ourselves form has not been good across all 3 sides as we get into this. If you look at Southampton, Leeds, Leicester and Ipswich, these are 4 teams that have had put on record-breaking runs in their own club's history this season, have had put on some of the biggest numbers that this division has ever seen this year, and now in the last couple of weeks have started to falter and drop points. Everyone is starting to feel the pressure. So you can't really hold it against the Leeds players for getting a bit of a wobble. It's an incredibly young squad. Leeds have the second youngest squad in the entire division. Second, ironically, to Sunderland, who we played during the week. So it's never over till it's over. As long as there's a mathematical chance, you never know. Leeds did win the league title last day of the season. Other results had to go their way for them to win that. It's been done before. And I won't give up on this until it's mathematically impossible. The title for me is irrelevant. I know Bandy will tell me that we're going to win the title. Fair play to you for saying that. But for me, important thing is going to the last game of the season, knowing that we're promoted. Southampton will go into that game knowing they've got nothing to play for probably, and a playoff position. So maybe resting players for the playoffs. So that could help us if there's a title opportunity on the line in the final game of the season. We'll start off, crack on with the form guide with 4 games to go. Leeds 2 wins in the last 5, 2 draws and 1 loss in that period of time. Turned the table, but still 1 point off the league leaders and off Ipswich. And yes, Leicester do have a game in hand, but they still have to go and win that. And they've got a fixture congestion. Maresca has been complaining about the health of his players. He clearly hasn't been looking at Leeds' fixture congestion at times this season. Leeds with a Friday, Sunday game, 2 back-to-back games coming up as well, which, not great. Gail making a very good point. 1 shot on target against Sunderland. Yeah, 100% agree with that. I'm talking more about from a performance level. Are we moving the ball quick enough? Are we causing problems? Are we moving the ball around? Are the players tracking forward quickly? Are we getting back to help out defensively quickly? And I thought we did that better than we did against Coventry. I actually thought from watching the game, the performance was fine. What was lacking was a cutting edge in the final third. What was lacking were shots on goal. What was lacking was a goal. But then you look at the referee's performance in that game as well. It's 2 clear handballs. Should have been penalties. Now we can't argue we've got to do our job in 90 minutes, but it's part of the game. It's part of the game. If there's a handball there and it's that obvious. Somebody made a point. I think Squareball made the point, and we were talking about this again on another podcast during the week about VAR maybe having an impact, even though it's not in the Championship, because the referee that refereed the Leeds Sunderland game also is a Premier League referee, and maybe thought VAR will pick that up. And it's this bit where they're jumping between the Premier League, where there's VAR to fix any mistake that they miss, or they're hesitant in blowing the whistle, and dropping into the Championship when there's no VAR there to cover them at all. And then there's that hesitation, but I haven't given it now. I can't really do anything about that. And there's this bemusement look on most of the officials' faces. It has been a poor season for most officials in the Championship. I think the standard has been shocking. We saw Lee Peltier have a penalty given against him the other night when he handled it, but didn't even handle it. Him in the face about a yard outside the box, and the referee gave a penalty. So it's not been great. Andrew Askin was the last time we scored from a corner. I believe it was stroke mid-season, but it wasn't direct. It was bobbled around. He got toned the end of it. Funny enough, Andrew, on that, I thought the delivery from our corners against Sunderland was also better than it has been in a long time. We weren't getting caught at the first man. We weren't overhitting it to the back post. We're going to good areas. We just don't. There's not a big side. We just don't have anybody outside Liam Cooper and Pascal Stroke who can really attack that ball. Joe Rowland's a big guy, but he doesn't score a lot of goals from corners. You look at the height that Liam Cooper can get off the ground and go back and look at the start of the season, that Cardiff game. Look how high Liam Cooper gets when he wins that header. Outside Charlie Creswell, there really isn't anybody else who is probably strong enough attacking balls in the box, but we need to be a little bit more creative with our set pieces if we can't score direct. But I did think the delivery was slightly better, although we didn't do anything with it, so it doesn't really matter then, does it? So yeah, as I said, 2 wins in our last 5, not great form, but I did think performance improved. Third in table, 1 point behind the top 2. We do have a better goal difference in place as well, which should help us should we get to that point. The officials have cost us an awful lot this season. Top Banana saying that as well. There's been huge amount of penalties given the opposite direction that should have been given to Leeds this season. I think it's close to 12 or 13 penalties at this stage of Leeds should have had that weren't given. From Blackburn's perspective, they've had 1 win in the last 5, 2 draws and 2 losses, and they sit 18th in the table, which probably sounds like an easy day at the office for Leeds, but we should talk about this and look at their last 5 results. They lost 5-0 to Bristol City during the week. One of their most important centre-backs, Wharton, went off injured at half-time. That didn't help their situation. But if you look at the 4 before that, a 0-0 draw with Southampton, they battered Sunderland 5-0, who we struggled to break down. Lost 1-0, lost 1-0 against Ipswich and drew 0-0 against Borough. So good sides they played in the last 5, and outside the Bristol City game, pretty respectable results given the opposition they're up against. If you look at the last time we played them earlier on this season, we won 2-0 Addy would park, Dan James and Chris Somerville scored the goals. But one of the very few occasions this year where a team had more possession than Leeds, Blackburn had more possession than Leeds with 54% of the total possession. They also had more shots on goal. They had 17 shots on goal versus Leeds 8, although Leeds had 4 on target and they only had 2 on target. They had a better passing accuracy as well, which is, again, most teams against Leeds don't do that. 83% versus Leeds 81%. And they actually outpassed Leeds, which again just doesn't seem to happen against Leeds, with 496 passes against 443. Just they weren't as clinical in the final third as Leeds were on that day. So hopefully something similar happens to that, but we need to better the performance in that game as well. It's not going to be as straightforward as it looks. They are 3 points above the relegation zone and very much have something to play for. And normally we would say that will play into our hands, although recently I'm not so sure it does play into our hands, but Leeds will need to drag out a performance in this one and drag out a result. In terms of team news, Daniel Farke's press conference today talked about full bill of health pretty much for the entire squad outside of Pascal Strauch's injury, and obviously Stuart Dallas is having to retire. He talked about Connor Roberts and Willie Gnonto, both of them having more time on the field this week, which has been beneficial. The extra day has been hugely beneficial to them. And he talked about the fact that Ethan Ampadu and Glenn Kamara have had another week on with getting over the illnesses that they had in the camp as well. So feeling much better. Hopefully that starts to bring the energy back into the team. When it's hard for players when you're not feeling well. When you're ill, the energy levels are low anyway, but Leeds need them to be higher. From Blackburn perspective, John Eustace has very few things to worry about. He's got one major doubt, and that's the centre-back, as I said, Scott Wharton, who went off at half-time with back spasms against Bristol City. In their press conference, he said that he's touch and go this week, and he may play, may not play. They will judge it today on whether he goes and travels with the team tomorrow. But for Leeds' sake, you would hope that he doesn't travel, because that made a massive impact on their loss to Bristol City. In terms of statistics going into this game, Leeds have won 7 of their last 8, only losing 1 games against Blackburn, and have won each of their last 4 meetings against Blackburn, scoring at least 2 goals in every single one of those games. Leeds have 19 clean sheets, the most in the championship this season, and if they can keep 20 clean sheets, it'll be the 3rd time in the last century that the club have done that. The best was 22 clean sheets in the 2019-2020 season. I saw the word 19 and went straight with 19 straight away. But yeah, so a good season. Farkett again talked about his press conference today. Best defensive record in the league, best points total in the club's history, best season the club has ever had. And people are calling for the manager to get sacked. It's nuts. If you look at the numbers that Leeds have put up this year, they have broken records this season, this team. And it's just the fact that it's just been a really weird year in terms of the top 3. Everyone's just set off a record pace, and it's been a tricky one to keep up with, but now hopefully it's starting to level itself out. But hopefully Leeds can now push on. For Blackburn, they've won 1 of their last 17 away league fixtures when they have travelled to Yorkshire. And Daniel Farke has won 4 of his last 5 meetings against Blackburn. The outlier there is a draw when he was at Norwich against them. So hasn't lost in his last 5 games against Norwich. From a team perspective, everyone's calling for changes, and I suppose I can understand it a bit more now after the last 2 matches to try and freshen up a little bit. I still don't think he starts Mateo Joseph ahead of Pat Bamford. He's talked this week about Pat Bamford's confidence looks great when he's scoring goals, but when he's not scoring goals, sometimes the confidence looks like arrogance, and you can kind of understand that a little bit. But he does try. Unfortunately, it's just not going his way at the moment. And Paddy is streaky. He's always been streaky. He goes through bouts of not scoring and long runs of scoring, so hopefully he's come through the not scoring bout and bangs in a goal at the weekend for us. Midfield wise, a lot of talk there as well. For me personally, I'd like to see Connor Roberts come in at right back and Archie Gray move into midfield alongside Ilya Groove instead of Glenn Kamara, just to give Leeds more attacking threat as well. Let's talk about swapping Willie Gnonto out for Dan James. Willie Gnonto and Dan James, that conversation is an interesting one. If you look at it from a goal scoring perspective, Dan James has scored nearly all of his goals at Elland Road, where Willie Gnonto has scored nearly all of his goals outside of one, I think, away from home. So who do you play in this game? I think Gnonto's banging on the door. The way Leeds have been playing, they've not got the ball early enough to Dan James to exploit his pace and to give him the space to run into. So if they're not going to play that way, then it favours Willie Gnonto coming into that team. There's question marks around Georgina Rutter in the last couple of weeks. He's not looked great since he's come back from the injury, since the operation. He's a kid, he's young, he's had a very long season, and he's been playing with a hernia problem for a while now as well. You thought the operation would have cleaned it up, but he's been struggling. He's been giving the ball an awful lot away. Does Daniel Farke take him out of the firing line now and put someone like Joe Pirro in, who's looked really tidy when he's come on the last couple of games and did score a goal for us against Coventry as well? Does he bring him in? Maybe another goal threat from midfield where, Georgie does get us more assists, but if you want more goals, does he bring Pirro into that situation there as well? But I think for me, Archie Gray and Ilya Groove is the midfield pair, and I'd love to see in this game because Leeds, with Groove in there, we do look more solid from a defensive perspective. From an attacking perspective, having somebody who'll actually make a run to the box and try and shoot where Archie will, where Glenn Kamara, as we've seen all season, is just a bit reluctant to shoot. Defensively, everything else I'd say stays the same. Firpo at left back was excellent last week, and very good against Coventry, and again then very, very good against Sunderland. I've talked about Firpo this season being really good as an attacking threat for Leeds and very good as a wing back or as a winger. He'd be brilliant for Leeds. I thought he was very good defensively against Sunderland at the other night as well. So you don't change that. Amadou Northern will be the same. Mez will be in goal. And then for me, it'll be Connor Roberts at right back. Midfield two, we've already talked about. And then it's Willie Gnonto, Chris Somerville. And then the question mark is the number 10 and number 9. I think he'll start Bamford. I don't think he'll change that. I think you might see Joe Perreault go into the number 10 position to see if having an additional striker. And it might actually suit Joe Perreault having somebody like Patrick Bamford to play off of. It's more kind of a 2 up front situation then. Leeds will need goals, but we need more goals from midfield as well, as Nick is saying there. Leeds, Kamara, an attacking midfielder who just seems to be afraid to shoot. There's a lot of confidence issues, I think, when he gets in front of goal. Someone else said this again this weekend. I think it's a really, really valid point that we're talking about, is that when you get to this stage of the season, not that it's fear that creeps in, but just hesitation that starts to creep in of, I don't want to be the one that makes the mistake that costs us, so I won't chance the risky passes. There are times that Leeds will have to try and force things a little bit. Will need to try and be a bit more creative and try more complicated passes around the edge of the box than they have been doing. They're not going to get a chance to walk it in. During Leeds' more wobbly periods this year, we've seen the team try to overplay and walk the ball into the back of the net. But when they've been more instinctive, when they've been more relaxed, they've scored more freely from other parts of the pitch. That's what they need from me tomorrow as well. They need just to relax, go in, play the game. But they gotta have a chance to take it, have a snatch at it, put shots on the keeper, work the keeper, see how their backline fares. It'll be a nervy Ellen Road, but it needs to be a boisterous Ellen Road. It needs to be a loud one. The players need it. At this point of the season, there's no point getting on the players' backs. Online reaction has been nuts, to be fair. We're this close to gaining promotion, and where the players need a positive push over the line, some people have gone down the negative hammering line, which just, for me, I will never understand. I will never get that. It doesn't help anybody. Shabang asking, is this a must-win game? Yeah, I think it probably is at this stage. I think if Leeds can win 3 of the last 4, I think it's probably enough to get up. You want to see if they can win all 4, I think they definitely go up. For me, it's about performance first. If we start fast, if we keep the ball moving quickly, I'm sure everyone is sick of listening to me talking about tempo all year. All I've talked about all year is that when Leeds play quickly, they're very, very good. And when they play slowly, they're not as good as they can be. They're not as good. They can look a bit average at times when it's slow. Leeds will need to be at pace. Move the ball quickly, switch the play regularly, get it left and right. If it's not working down one side, switch it back, go to the other side, but keep it moving back. Also, people talking about the fact that Leeds keep going backwards sometimes. You go backwards to reset the play. If you can't draw the defence out to play in between the lines and get in behind them, you go back, you drop 10 yards, and you hope that brings the opposition with you, and then you try and go around the other side and get in around the back end that way. But again, the ball has to be moved quickly, and Leeds haven't, outside of the Sunderland game for me recently since the break, Leeds have not been moving the ball quick enough. So that for me is a fundamental basic that Leeds need to do. Move the ball quickly, get it moving, pace off the ball, no one standing around, nobody walking, everybody up for this, go for it. Fans will get behind that. And when the fans get behind that and everyone lifts, look, they've got something to do for now as well. I think Stuart Dallas' situation this week has probably shown players, your football is not guaranteed forever. He's 32 years of age and he's had to retire. It is the hardest thing in the world to have a doctor or a physio tell you you can't play anymore. I had that. I had a physio tell me I couldn't play anymore. I was done. When if an operation was told, that's it, you're done. It's the hardest thing to get your head around because it's not on your terms. The rest of the players will have seen this week, and maybe it just puts the whole reality of football into context for them, that this isn't guaranteed. And what's not guaranteed isn't a chance to play and win things, go for promotions, get in the Premier League, go and win a title if you can. So it's not guaranteed. Very few players will actually be in a situation where they'll win titles or get to cup finals in their career. So when it's on your doorstep and it's that close to you, don't step back from it. Go head first into it. I think Muhammad Ali said it as well. Live in pain now, but live the rest of your life as a champion. Go for it. Whatever's left in the tank, 4 games left, go for it. Put everything in. So I think it's there for them. I think all the motivation is there for them. And I think if we can get a good result, I think the performance against Sunderland will tee us up for a win. I think the wobble is out of our is out of our system. So fingers crossed that's gone. And we'll start to see what we saw before the break as well. Glover off asking, Jer, what do you think on Farke's words on Dallas and Leeds United Club and the challenge? I thought he spoke very well about Stuart Dallas, but he does. Daniel Farke is a good speaker. For me, I think he said all the right things. Club legend. I really like Parag Marate's comments about him as well, that he epitomizes the core values of Leeds United. And for Parag Marate to understand what the core values of Leeds are, we've had previous owners who just didn't get what Leeds were about. The fact that Parag seems to understand that and is talking about it out loud, and the fact that the club are looking to give him a role behind the scenes in the club as well, I think that's fantastic. I think it's the right thing to do. They've done a really good job on this. So, yeah. Morph talking about the negativity online, especially online right now. It is mate. And if the playoffs we win and smash them, I'm with you. I think if we end up in the playoffs, I think we still go up. I still think we go up. I still think we're the best team in the division this year. You know, you take the first part of the year out of it completely, and I still think take that out of it. We've been the best side since the end of August. We've been excellent. We've been really, really good. And as Bandy said, you know how I see it. I do. Title all day of the week, and it's still very much there. The club's done a cracking job saying goodbye to players this year, but we've really struggled. I've been saying this all year, and I hope the club does this. Hope someone says it to them. But Liam Cooper's testimonial should happen at the end of the season. Gaetano Berardi should be brought back for it. Gianni Alioski should be brought back for it. Liam Cooper should be there, obviously. Stuart Dallas should get to walk out in the pitch in a kit at least, even if it's for 5 minutes. And they should get Marcelo Bielsa back as well for that game. So everyone gets to say goodbye the way they should have gotten the chance to say goodbye. And we can all take a moment to remember that squad the way it should have been. And everyone gets to say goodbye in a positive mindset. Bring Bill back as well. All these players. And just do it the right way. It would be lovely if the club did that. It's going to be very hard to do, but I would love to see that happen. So, yeah, I think the club's done a really good job. Even Bill's goodbye speech, or his temporary goodbye speech, whatever it ends up being, when he went to Middlesbrough on loan, I thought was lovely as well. It's great. They're doing a great job. What's going on behind the scenes at Leeds right now is excellent. There's a lot to be positive about. There's a lot to be hopeful of leading into the future. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Right. Folks, not a huge amount else to talk about. As I said, Leicester kick off away tonight, 8 p.m. So I'm not going to keep you from that game. That's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Ipswich, 3 p.m. tomorrow. They are home to Middlesbrough. Not a cakewalk for them either. We have to wait and see what happened there. They weren't themselves, Ipswich, during the week. They just didn't feel, to me, like they were going to score. They didn't look themselves at all. I suppose we haven't looked ourselves either. Neither of Leicester, I suppose. And still keeping a little eye on Southampton. They are at home to Watford, who have been in excellent form at the moment, Watford. So any drop points for Southampton in that game, you would imagine, rules out any possibility they have of getting into the automatic spots, if it's not already gone already. But I'm not going to do what the Southampton Stats Twitter account did, where he wrote Leeds off completely and now look at the table. This won't be over till the final ball is kicked on the final day of the season. I think it'll go all the way. So, yeah, I think Leicester win tonight. I think Ipswich win tomorrow. We do our job, win, and then we go to the next week and we just see how we go. We've got 2 games then in the space of a couple of days. I think that will decide where the league is heading and where Leeds will be heading. And again, same thing. If we end up in the playoffs, I think we win. If we don't go up, the club is in a positive position off the field. We didn't go up in our first year under Bielsa either. Look what happened the second year. I don't want it to happen. I think get it done this year. As Phil Hay and everyone else keeps saying, let's just go and win the fucking thing. Just go and win. Go and get the results. This is an excellent team. When they play, when they're on their game, confidence is key. It's massive. Got to believe in these players. Got to believe in the club. Got to be positive about things and not negative. If it doesn't go our way tomorrow, if we don't get everything we want, if it ends up with a draw, still 3 games left. We still keep hoping until it's gone. That's where I am with this. I'm not going to melt down. And if we finish it the way it is, it's still been an incredible season. Look at the points total Leeds have had. Look at the clean sheets. Look at the wins. We are breaking records this season. Compared to where Leeds were at the start of this campaign, we had a takeover. We had 8 players that from the squad have loan release clauses and leave the club. We didn't get any major signings in until the end of August. We didn't win a game until September. Now look where we are now. Anybody at that time period, at the end of August, start of September, anybody would have taken to be 1 point off the top positions with 4 games to go. Everyone would have bitten your hand off. So again, I don't get the reaction online. I don't. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for me today. I am going to do a review on Sunday. My nephew's birthday is tomorrow, so I'm going to Galway for that. But I should be back at some point on Sunday and I'll get a review out as well. We'll try to do some tactical breakdowns on it as well. If we need it takes a bit longer to get that organised and do the bit of work on it, but we will see that. Right, folks, massive thanks as always for supporting the channel. Today's news is available as well if you want to go check that out. Some stories about Brendan Aronson wanting to stay at Union Berlin, but Berlin probably can't afford it. Ian Paveda's season as being potentially over, and Rasmus Christensen possibly being pushed out of the club, and not a player Daniel Farke will want into next season. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Fingers crossed for 3 points tomorrow, and fingers crossed Leicester stumble tonight. Wait and see. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.